media. So over to the chair to give us a post-cabinet briefing. Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Chief Secretary, and good afternoon to you all. This afternoon we'll be giving you a post-brief, and with me I've got my colleague ministers. I've got Minister Matiza, the Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development. I've got Minister Chitando, Minister of Mines and Mining Development, Minister Dr. Onyoni, Minister of Women Affairs, Community and SMEs, then Minister Jovu, Minister of Environment, Climate, Tourism and Hospitality Industry, and Minister Sekai Nzenza, Minister for Industry and Commerce, to answer all your questions. Cabinet received an update on the steps that are being taken to contain the COVID-19 pandemic, and this was given by the Minister of Defense and War Veterans Affairs, Honorable Osi Zetu Mchinkuri Kashiri, Chairperson of the Ad Hoc Interministerial Task Force on the COVID-19 outbreak. Cabinet noted that the country has now recorded 6,837 confirmed COVID-19 cases, compared to the 6,388 reported the previous week. A total of 5,345 persons had recovered from the virus, compared to 5,078 recoveries that were reported last week. Harare and Blue metropolitan provinces are the epicenters of the pandemic, while community transmissions account for the majority of the new cases. The loss of 206 lives to the pandemic is sincerely regretted, and all efforts are being made to ably manage the situation. The number of testing laboratories countrywide has increased to 32, following the inclusion of the dangerous pathogens laboratory, Unki Mine and PSI on the inventory of the testing laboratories. Healthcare workers and other frontline workers continue to be prioritized in the testing regime. The public may recall that Cabinet approved the establishment of a COVID-19 Experts Advisory Committee. Their objective will be to provide science-based evidence, advice and guidance on the national COVID-19 preparedness and response in support of timely evidence-based policy decisions. Today, Cabinet approved the appointment of the following members: Dr. Tonderai Mapako, Mr. Tendai Kurea, Dr. Justin Manassa, Professor Rumakunike Mutasa, Dr. Alex Gasasira, Dr. Lincoln Charimari, Professor Rose Kambarami, Dr. Gledwin Muchena, Dr. Samson Shumbairerwa, Dr. Mteweye, Professor Rashida Ferrat, and Ms. Esther Masumbi. The committee is made up of professionals in the relevant fields who are expected to deliver on this important mandate. Cabinet also received the results from a TIBA study on frontline health workers, which was conducted in Bulawayo, which also buttressed our efforts on the need to ensure the enhanced availability of PPE at all levels of frontline health workers. Government, through Treasury, has released 205 million Zimbabwe dollars for the drilling of 10 specialized boreholes and the rehabilitation of 10 under the Epping Forest project. 4 of the 10 boreholes have so far been drilled. The Epping Forest and Mchabezi Nyakuni water project aim to improve raw water supplies to the city of Bulawayo. To date, the total number of boreholes drilled by government and its partners as part of the COVID-19 response is 222. The Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education has upscaled efforts in preparation for the 14th and 28th September 2020 reopening of Cambridge and ZIMSEC examination. The Ministry is currently procuring PPE, infrared thermometers, disinfectants, and other hygiene products to the tune of 654,147,907. The Risk and Communications Subcommittee is increasing public awareness. This is to ensure that there is co-sharing of information, dissemination, and enforcement of COVID-19 regulations. Under this initiative, community health clubs will be set up and community volunteers trained to carry out outreach programs. The volunteers will educate communities on key protective and preventative measures. The campaign will also target potential hotspots, which include churches, funerals, and bus terminals. Following representations from the Liquor Retailers Association seeking permission for liquor retailers to commence operations, Cabinet resolved that operations could resume in line with COVID-19 regulations and on condition that no liquor is consumed at their premises. Then we had a state of preparedness by the Civil Aviation Authority of Zimbabwe for the opening of airports for both domestic and international flights. Cabinet approved the opening up of the country's skies to both domestic and international flights effective 10th September and 1st October 2020, respectively. Standard operating procedures have been put in place for the reopening of international and some domestic airports. The national guidelines for aviation safety and security have been developed by the Civil Aviation Authority of Zimbabwe to ensure the safety of both the travelers and airport staff. These are additional to temperature testing, social distancing, sanitization, and mandatory wearing of masks. All travelers will be required to have a PCR COVID-19 clearance certificate, which is issued by a recognized facility within 48 hours from the date of departure. This is in line with WHO guidelines. Then Cabinet received a report on the riverbed mining and environmental challenges. This report was given by the Minister of Mines and Mining Development, Honorable Chitando, and this report was given together by two ministers, that is the Mines and Mining Development and Environment, Climate, Tourism and Hospitality Industry. And this was on the status of riverbed mining, drenching, and the environmental challenges thereof. Having noted the challenges and the need to put in place measures to carry out sustainable mining operations in the sector, Cabinet directed as follows. 1, that riverbed and alluvial mining on rivers or riverbed, alluvial and riverbed mining on rivers is banned with immediate effect, except on the Sawe and Angwa rivers, where desiltation will be allowed under very strict conditions. 2, introduction of orderly mining initiatives. Under this one, all those holding mining concessions will be given a grace period to be announced to obtain their environmental impact assessment, EIA, and state of works plan acceptance by the Ministry of Mines and Mining Development. It was noted that the granting of a mining concession through mining claims and on special grant is not a license for resumption of mining. All holders of mining title are required to obtain approval of EIA and acceptance of site plan works from the Ministry of Mines and Mining Development. This position will be strictly reinforced by the two ministries, that is Mines and Environment. Then E, those who fail to regularize the EIA and site plan works will be deemed to be operating illegally and will be subject to stiff penalties which are being reviewed. And then D, the whole objective is to have all mining operations conducted in a manner which does not harm the environment. Stiff penalties shall be aimed at all those who are not complying with environmental provisions. Then under mining in national parks, mining on areas held by national parks is banned with immediate effect. Steps are being undertaken to immediately cancel all mining title held in the national parks. Then a report on the operationalization of the Veterans of the Liberation Struggle Act 2020 was given by the Minister of Defense and War Veterans, Honorable Mchinguri. Following the repeal of War Veterans Act, Chapter 11.15, and the subsequent enactment of the Liberation Struggle Act, Chapter 17.4, at today's sitting, Cabinet considered and approved the proposals on the operationalization of the Act as presented by the Minister of Defense and War Veterans Affairs. The Liberation Struggle Act encompasses all categories of veterans of the struggle, namely war veterans, ex-political prisoners, detainees and restrictees, non-combatant cadres, and war collaborators. The new Act shall be operationalized through the following proposals. A. Structure for welfare and economic empowerment of veterans of the liberation struggle. B. Establishment of a Veterans of the Liberation Struggle Fund and capitalization of that fund. C. Vetting system for war collaborators, non-combatant cadres. And D. Appointment of a new Veterans of the Liberation Struggle Board. E. Conversion of Power Zimbabwe Company into a holding parastatal. And F. Matrix for operationalization of the Veterans of the Liberation Struggle Act. Then, Cabinet received a report on the job creation trends since the advent of the Second Republic. The Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, Honorable Professor Mavima, and Industry and Commerce, Dr. Sekai Nzenza, and Women Affairs, Community, Small and Medium Enterprises Development, Dr. Nyoni, informed Cabinet on job creation trends in all sectors of the economy since the advent of the Second Republic. Despite the plethora of challenges that we have faced, which include, among others, foreign currency shortages, currency instability, as well as natural calamities such as droughts, cyclones, and COVID-19, the formal employment figures increased from 1,083,000 in 2017 to 1.2 million as of August 2020, according to data from the National Social Security Authority, NASA. Most of the jobs were created in the agricultural sector with a 41% growth rate, followed by construction, 40%, and the energy sector, 37%, and overall the economy added 20% new jobs during the period under review. Small and medium enterprises are a major sector in terms of employment generation since the advent of the Second Republic. In the small and medium enterprises sector, a total of 235,635 jobs were created. The majority of the jobs, 22%, were in agriculture, forestry, and fishing sector, retail trade at 21%, manufacturing 15%, mining 9%, and education 8%. In terms of investments, 86 new investments and new employers were registered between 2018 and 2019. 40 of the businesses were in the commerce sector and 34 in fabricated metal products, machinery. Regarding retrenchments, the statistics from the Retrenchment Board show a declining trend since the advent of the Second Republic. In 2017, 4,493 workers were laid off, whereas 1,668 lost their jobs in 2018 and 1,461 in 2019. By the end of June 2020, a total of 638 workers had been laid off. The government, with support from the International Labour Organizations, ILO, is implementing two major projects since the 2017. These two are the Empowerment for Women and Youth projects in Zimbabwe and the Green Enterprise Innovation and Development Project, which are meant to economically empower women and youth. I thank you for listening to the post-cabinet briefing. I thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Here we are. We now can take questions from members of the media. We have two parts. The first session, as usual, will give you 4 persons, right? 4 persons, before we move on to the second round. So, any volunteers? Yes, please.
Thank you, Doc. My name is Columbus Mavunga. I'm at VOA TV CNN. Madam Chaba, you said you agreed on banning all mining in national parks. Would you explain why that happened? And does this also include the much talked about mining by those two Chinese companies in Wange National Park? Thank you.
In Columbus, the Minister of Mines and Mining Development is right. You answered it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other volunteer? Yes, please.
My name is Blessed Mklang from Arkansas TV, Radio and Newsday. My question is in relation to the banning of mining activities in all national parks. I wanted to understand why the concessions were granted in the first place. Who did that? For what benefit? I also want to note that when schools closed in January, there's been a strong inflation that has happened in terms of school fees and stuff like that. So when schools open next week, what leeway is government giving to schools so that they can be able to run efficiently, especially boarding schools that need to be able to buy food supplies for the people? Thank you.
Okay. Any other volunteer? So if not, we can start with those two questions. Back
That's
to the
it?
chair.
All right, thank you. Thank you once again for the good questions. Columbus wanted to know about the banning of mining in national parks, and I think you can take it together with Blessed Mklanga's also question. He went on to say why the concession were granted in the first place. So, Minister of Mining, you can tackle those too.
Thank you very much for the questions which have been tabled. I think I will probably just explain the procedure that in terms of the provisions of the Mines and Minerals Act, there are areas which are referred to as reserved areas. And the reservations can be for a variety of reasons. Areas held by the national parks are reserved areas. Areas held by the Forestry Commission are reserved areas. And there are other areas which, in terms of the provisions of the Mines and Minerals Act, can and are classified as reserved areas. And secondly, in terms of the provisions of that same Act, it provides for a mechanism through which mining can take place in the reserved areas. So the mechanism is that when someone wants to undertake mining in the reserved area, you get permission from the jurisdiction under which the reserved area has been placed under. And when that is done, and you get the permission that you can get, you can mine in the defined area, then the Ministry of Mines proceeds to issue what is known as the special grant, which is mining title in the reserved area. Right. Now, to answer the question, why were these particular concessions granted in the first place? They were granted because at the time of application, the jurisdiction overseeing that particular reserved area gave go ahead for the granting of mining rights. In particular, the mining concession in the Wange area being referred to, the mining concession was granted in 2015 to ZMDC. who have held that mining concession since then. They then proceeded, since they haven't done much work on the concession, and they proceeded to get a partner to undertake mining in the particular area. And they then partnered with the company, which is duly registered in the country and has followed the proper protocols in terms of establishment as an investor in the country. So that partnership was concluded between the MDC and the company. The procedure is, when you have been granted the special grant, before you start mining or before you start any active exploration program, in terms of the provisions of the law, you then apply for an EIA. And the EIA process is whether you're in an exempt area or you're not in an exempt area. But in this particular case, the application was done to EMA for an EIA to undertake mining activity. It is at this stage that that EIA has not been granted, and through the particular review of the mining concession, its cabinet then decided that all the special grants which are held in national parks be cancelled. I'm sure that answers the two questions. The first question was banning of mining national parks. Does it include? It includes all mining title national parks. And the second, why were the concessions granted in the first place? I think I've just explained the process and procedures. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'm sure Blessed and Columbus are quite satisfied. I think you have given a comprehensive answer there. And Blessed, as a good father, is worried about schools. Just to say, the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, and we have been saying this again and again, they have now really upscaled their efforts in preparation to make sure that everything flows. And I want to remind you, we are here talking about examination classes. That's grade 7, Form 4s and Form 6, those who are writing examination. Those are the children who are going back to school on the 14th and 28th September. Obviously, the ministry its interest is to see that everything flows nicely, and they will be obviously engaging. They've been engaging all stakeholders, trade unions, everybody, to make sure that it flows nicely as it flowed during June examinations. So those are some of the issues which they'll be talking to and the ministry itself has put a budget. They are procuring PPEs, there are thermometers, disinfectants, and other hygiene products just to make sure that children are safe and teachers are safe. Thank you. Chief Sec.
Thank you very much for the answers. Second round, last round. Any volunteers? We can take a repeat while some are still thinking.
Thank you, Chief Sec. Blessed Mhlanga, again from Hutton. Wanted to understand the rationale of allowing bars to just sell alcohol and not allow it to be consumed within the premises, when you have allowed restaurants to open and given a cap the number of people that can be there in any particular time. And also, secondly, we had the privilege of being addressed by the Vice President and also Minister of Health, indicated that government is increasing salaries and allowances for health, for nurses and doctors, for health practitioners. I want to ask from the Minister of Labour, Social Welfare, at what level is that increase being effected? How much is it? How much does it translate into their pockets? Because we just heard that they've been adjusted. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Perfect Shomani from ZFM. I wanted to find out concerning the opening of schools for examination classes. To say that in your presentation you indicate that the ministry is busy buying PPEs to make sure that the process is, they are prepared enough to make sure that kids are not exposed to coronavirus. Now, there are schools that are asking parents to contribute some money towards buying PPEs. So I wanted to know if that is allowed. If not, what is going to happen to such schools?
Okay. Any other volunteer?
Oh, they're happy.
If not, we'll try and get to you.
All right, okay. Thank you very much, and thanks for all those good questions. I can see Blessed was raring to go yesterday. You were asking a question of a press conference of yesterday. I thought we had. This is during the post-cabinet. But I'm sure the Professor Mavima, the Minister of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, will try to help you there. And the rationale of allowing bars to sell alcohol, I would like to give this to the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Dr. Nzenza, if you can help Blessed to understand that.
Thank you, Chair. Let me thank Blessed for that question. Blessed, what we have is a general framework to guide the discussions between the representatives of the employers and the apex councils of employees, both in the health sector and in the general civil service. Now that we have that framework, what it means is the NJNC will sit down. The NJNC is the government team as well as the apex council. And then also on the health care side, the apex council for the health care workers will sit down with the health services board and finalize on the package that is going to be paid to the two groups of public employees. I couldn't say exactly how much they are going to be paid now until that negotiation is taking place. And it's a negotiation that is going to take place very soon. I know for sure because I've been pushing for the NJNC to take place, negotiations to take place. And now that we have the framework, we should see the negotiations taking place maybe within the next week or so. And then we'll have clarity on what kind of package. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Professor Mavima, for that answer. I spoke about the Liquor Retailers Association seeking permission. They were given their presentation. Since liquor has been sold in supermarkets, you were able to buy, I'm sure you have been able to buy liquor from supermarkets. They have also given their presentation, and this is what is being allowed, but they will have to resume in line with the COVID-19 regulations. And one of the conditions, which is very, very important, is that no liquor is going to be consumed at their premises. I hope that answers you, Blessed. And if I go to Perfect Lomwani, Perfect wanted to know more about what the ministry is doing and what the schools are actually doing. I want to say I'm talking here about what government has done to make sure that we've put all the preventative and precautionary measures to make sure that our teachers, our students are all free, are all safe from this COVID-19. As I say, the ministry is actually procuring the PPEs. There's a budget actually of 654 million which the government has put aside to make sure that the ministry procures PPE, that's masks, that's infrared thermometers, disinfectants to make sure that they disinfect the classes and halls, and also even other hygiene products. So if there are any schools who are asking the parents to bring in PPEs, this is information which I will pass to the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education. I'm not aware about that. I thank you. Chief Secretary.
Thank you. So that's the end our briefing. I want to thank the honorable ministers through the chair, the members of the media. So until we meet again.
Thank you very much, honorable ministers. Thank you.